we're talking about this. I'm going to call it coded whimsy, where it's
Screaming.
like thank you. You can trademark that. Pause pod coded whimsy.
We'll put it on merch.
We'll put coded whimsy. Oh my god, coded whimsy hats, coded whimsy shirts, please. Nobody steal that. It's mine.
Hello, darlings, and welcome back to another episode of Pause Pod, the podcast where two gals who love film try to yap their way into becoming indie darlings. I am Danny.
And I am Kara. And I'm so excited for this episode.
This is like the biggest Kara episode, like to ever episode before.
This is my time to shine. Guys, when I tell you I went down like a research rabbit hole to prepare.
I'm going to retaliate with like the biggest horror episode to ever grace your screens because of this episode.
This brings up, we should ask the darlings this. So basically today, this is partly inspired by my enduring love for the genre, but also inspired by friend of the show, Austin Adams. Because we posted a clip of one of his genius musings from our Celine Song episode. If you haven't listened, go ahead and give that a listen. But he was talking about how he thinks that now, in the current state of the industry, the rom-com genre is solely fueled by nostalgia and questioning the future of the genre, and just talking about why we as a generation on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z cuspers find so much nostalgia in 2000s rom-coms. And that TikTok got quite a lot of views and quite a lot of comments. And so we thought it'd be a great idea for an episode to dive into 2000s rom-coms, talk about what are the enduring elements, why do we drive so much nostalgia, and then answer the question, is there a future for rom-coms in the film industry? And then if you like it, I went down I was like, guys, it could be a series. I could go into the history of the genre. And I was like pitching Danny ideas of like 1940s, 1990s. But then I told her that she could do the same thing with horror. So if you do want, I guess, more of a film history series where we take a genre and we look at it through film history and break down some key films that were turning points in the genre, let us know, because we can do that.
And we would love to.
But before we get into the nostalgia of the 2000s, Danny, how are you? You've been poorly.
I've been poorly. I've been sickly. Yeah, Daytona. For those who missed the previous episode where I announced that I now work for NASCAR, vroom vroom, I just recently got back from the Daytona 500 version of the Super Bowl. Hell yeah, brother.
It nearly killed her.
It nearly killed me. I kept telling them that I was living off of Monster Energy drinks in a dream. And I got back and I was decrepit. I was ill for days. And I've just recently started getting over it. Like my nose hasn't exuded as much fluids as in days past. Yum. So I think I'm on the mend. I think I'm on the up and up. But let me tell you, like, she nearly took a girl out, you know? But you can't ever get a bad bitch down.
Amen.
But that's me. How are you, Care Bear?
Well, I'm so glad that you're better. I did have to do a bit of a SOS wellness check to make sure that you went offline, girl. Disappeared. But I'm so glad that you're back now. I'm good. I had a very great day today. I did something that I don't normally do, but it's my favorite thing in the world, is to spontaneously go see a film by myself.
Oh my god, solo film day. What'd you watch?
I went to go see My Father's Shadow.
Oh my god, shut up. I know. desperate to see it, and there's, like,
dying.
no showings here.
And that's the thing is, like, I was reading an article about it where they were because it's the directorial debut of Akinola Davies, an indie darling in the making, and for sure an indie darling now because it's BAFTA Sunday and he just won Best British Debut, so snaps for that. But yeah, like when I was reading the article, I was like, oh shoot, there's gonna be such a limited theatrical release, and it was like today, 3 p.m. I said, I gotta go. I
You
gotta
gotta
go. And I'm
go.
so glad I did it. It really blew me away. It was so good. And it really reminded me of After Sun. So if you're a fan of that film,
Mm.
though this film has its own voice structurally, it's quite similar. And it was gorgeous. And I did cry. Yes, I did.
Oh my god. I have been, like, nearly stalking the director and the, like, track of this film because I
Mm-hmm.
have been desperate to see, but
Mm-hmm.
surprising to nobody, there is no showings in the state of North Carolina, and
Well,
I
it is a movie film, so it will be on the streamer
a movie.
eventually. It's made in association with Mubi. So, and for all our listeners who want to see it and might not have screenings in your city, it will be on Mubi
Movie.
soon. But yeah, and for those who haven't heard of this film, it's an incredible story. It takes place in the 1990s in Lagos, Nigeria, and it's told through the lens of these two young brothers as they spend a day with their father. And I won't give too much away, but what I thought was so brilliantly done was it's set in 1993, so there's huge political unrest, and it's on the day of the presidential election, the day that they're in Lagos, and so you're through the eyes of a child, so you don't understand 100% what's going on, but you get these snippets and this texture, and you can feel what's going on in the city around these boys, even though you're not entirely clued into it. So it's incredible. And I love a child father story. I'm a
You do.
sucker.
You do.
Yeah. So that was the highlight of my day.
I love that for you. That's so I
Thanks.
love a solo like, a solo cinema outing.
It's so great. And I always forget about it. And then I do it, and I'm like, I want to do this every time.
So every time, like,
Such a treat.
the it's nice to, like, watch films with, like, people, like, with your friends and
Mm.
stuff, but there's just, like, a different experience of, like, going and watching a film by yourself, and I feel like if you don't do that, I feel like you should give it a
Yeah.
try.
It's great to go on a solo date to the movies because you'd think, I don't know, I guess like sometimes there's a hesitation like to just like get out there because you think you might be lonely, but it's actually like lovely self-care because you're able to sit with your own thoughts, and then you have the excitement of going and telling people about it. Like you get out of the film and you're texting your friends, or you go home and
Yeah.
you chat about it. So highly recommend.
I'm a big proponent of solo dates in gen. I
Yeah.
love taking myself out on a solo outing. I love going to dinner by myself. I love going to a cafe by myself. I love going to the theater by myself. Like,
Mm.
learn to, like, spend time with yourself. And I think that that's, like, a big thing. Maybe it's because we're, like, entering, like, I don't wanna age us, but we're, like, reaching our 30s, you know? And I feel like it's a very, like, adult thing, like, to just, like, be really okay with spending time, like, with yourself and by yourself.
Yeah. And we recently, not to pull back the curtain too much, Danny and I recently did a Saturn return calculator. So now we have our
Stop
exact
it.
dates of when our Saturn return is. And we're in the thick of it. We're in the thick of
No,
it.
that bitch has been beating my ass. Yeah.
But I think
Putting
it's an important part because I feel like I view like 25 as like that's when the Legos snap into place. That's when your frontal
yeah.
cortex develops, and there's I felt a real contentment when I turned 25, but then the rest
Yeah.
of your 20s is like putting, I think, that contentment into practice and like really
Right.
learning, like cementing the foundations of who you are and like practicing that because before you're figuring it out and now you're practicing it, if that
Using
makes
it.
sense.
Yeah. I'm, like,
Hmm.
excited to be in my 30s, honestly, because I feel like I'll definitely, like, have it figured out by then, but like 27 has kicked my ass, bro.
Because you're being tested. Like the things that you've worked so hard to create, like the pillars of who you are in your life, are being tested, and that's why it's such a
Exactly.
bitch.
But
So going to the movies helps with that by yourself.
Spending, like, forcing yourself to spend time with yourself helps that, you know? That's what I thought. Like, that's just what I think, like, being self-assured and, like, enjoying your own company, like, that helps with you solidifying, like, the best parts of yourself and, like, who you actually are, in my opinion. Date yourself.
Date yourself and keep those dates. Like, if you in your head are like, oh, on Saturday I want to go do this, keep it. Do it. Keep that appointment.
The same way that couples who've been together for, like, ever are like, oh, like, we have to continue to date each other, you know? Continue to date yourself.
Right, because you're the longest relationship of your life.
You will ever have.
You ever have.
So
wow, okay, armchair therapy session.
Look at us.
You never know when we press record where we're gonna go. You never know.
You never know. We never know.
we never know.
We never know.
But anyway, yeah, highly recommend My Father's Shadow. And with that, shall we press play on our first 2000s nostalgic watch?
Absolutely, we should.
Okay, next. So, in trying to choose just 2 films from this era, which is very hard, we decided to go with the 2 films that I feel like are quite synonymous with the 2000s, at least in my mind, in this rom-com specific aesthetic. And the first one of that is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Classic.
And this is a film that I grew up watching, but I hadn't done a rewatch in quite a while. I associate this film, again, with Austin. It's one of his favorite films. And so I watched it quite a lot when we lived together. But before I watched this, I did do a bit of a deep dive into kind of the analysis around 2000s rom-coms. And this film was singled out specifically because it revived a subgenre of the romantic comedy genre, which is the female journalist in the big city.
I'm screaming. It's giving Carrie Bradshaw. It's
giving Carrie. It's giving 13 Going on 30, Sparkle Magazine, Devil Wears Prada.
Devil.
And I think print media is a huge part of why we find these films nostalgic. We're in an age where everything is hyper digital and everything is immediate. And so to go back to an era of like magazines, like it just takes you right back to your childhood for us specifically. I do have quite a specific memory of reading 17 magazine during my health class when I was supposed to be learning about the human body, and I was learning about the human body, but during in 17 magazine.
Like, I was learning about the human body of Harry Styles in One Direction. Like, come on.
And that there one day will be academic papers written about that, 100%.
Come on.
But yeah, and I read a really amazing IndieWire article, which I'll link down below. But they talk about this journey of the quippy female journalist starting in 1940s Hollywood romps and then kind of going away. And maybe one of the reasons why the 2000s are so iconic for this genre is because they brought that heroine back. And I think this journalism trope also highlights, like, part of watching these films, at least for me, was fantasizing about what your life could be like when you were like a woman, when you were grown up and you could have like a corporate job and you could live in the big city. And so now that we're actually living that adult reality and it's not all like glitter and neon flowers, like we crave that return to dreaming about a potential for ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge reason why it's so nostalgic.
I absolutely agree. I think that like the analog of it all, like there was an intellectualism about it. It's like she's not just smart, like she's smart and she's like savvy and she's good with words and like, you know, like she can do it all and have it all kind of
Mm-hmm.
situation, you know?
100%. And I think, again, I keep coming back to like what I think of when I think of 2000s rom-coms, and the aesthetic is so huge. Like this pink, neon, glittery, like hyper
Yeah.
feminine aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was rewatching this film, I was thinking that it's almost like signaling to women, like, you can have this corporate job and you can be like a badass like businesswoman, but you can do it with lip gloss and a fluffy pen. And it's almost like this secret language, like anchoring them back to girlhood, but in these hyper traditionally masculine spaces. So it's like girlifying those New York like corporate jobs in a way.
It's girlifying. Yeah, it's like a girlifying corporate America. It's like, hey
Exactly. And that's
girl.
immensely like gratifying to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of the general thoughts in my brain. But anchoring it into the film itself, this film is so funny.
This film is calm. It's calm down. Okay.
It's calm down.
Like, and I think that that is why I didn't like, I enjoyed it as a youth. You guys know what my quabble, my qualm, is with rom-coms, is that I just don't think that that they're believable. But I digress. This one, I can overlook any romance in it because it was so funny. And both of them are equally so funny.
And I think that's the charm of this film, and why it works is because the bulk of the film is romantic pretense and not actual romance. Because, okay, for those who haven't seen this film yet, which treat yourself, why don't you? Or those who haven't watched it in a while, it centers around this woman, Kate Hudson's character, Andy Anderson, who works at Composure magazine in New York, but she wants to be a serious journalist. And so through hijinks, she's now writing this article, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, where she'll start dating a guy, but then she'll make all the mistakes that women often find themselves making in relationships to drive the guy away, and do like a how not to list for the women of New York. And then Benjamin Barry, which, why did we have Andy Anderson and Benjamin Barry? What's with the alliteration?
Hate to see it, really.
And it's the A and the B. It's like, did they just type into like
and
the
if they do get married, she'd be Andy Barry,
which is not a moment anyway. But our male character is Benjamin Barry, played beautifully by Matthew McConaughey before his McConaissance.
The rom-com man of the century.
Gosh, he's just fun to look at, isn't he?
When I tell you, the moment that I saw his face appear on that screen for the first time in a minute, I'm like, yikes. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a man. What a man. I said,
what a man,
wow.
what a man.
Right. They don't make them like him no more.
And they don't.
They don't make him like him no more. Anyways.
No. Anyway, so just have that visual in your mind. He's an advertising exec, and he really wants this diamond account, but the female ad execs of the company have it, but he wants to break into the luxury accounts. So he makes a bet with the female execs at his company, saying that because diamonds are all about love and forever and luxury, if he can make a woman fall in love with him, then he can prove that he understands women enough to have this diamond account, which you have to go along with the camp of it. Who millions of dollars are on the line. But that's kind of, we can talk about this later. That's, I think, a charm of rom-coms, is they teeter on the camp of wish fulfillment and unbelievability. And if you get the balance just right, you can have fun without being taken out of it.
Right.
Anywho. So the ad execs know that Andy is doing this article about how to lose a guy. So they tell him to try and make her fall in love with him. So they both are on these different sides of a bet, where she's trying to lose him, he's trying to make her fall in love with him. So right off the bat, I think this movie's charm is that they are equal in their schemes. So nobody
Right.
feels like the butt of the joke because they both have like their own ulterior motives going on. But that just sets the scene for a lot of comedy because they are both pretending. They're both
Right.
and then they really fall in love. But they're both pretending. And I think that's why this movie is so enjoyable because it's not saccharine to the point of like the nitty-grittiness of their romantic relationship. It's hijinks for like 90%.
Yeah, I agree. And we can get into this in a little bit later about the fallout of it all, because the fallout, I was pissed off. But
you get into it now.
Because here's my thing. The entirety of the film, right? We know that both of them are lying. Okay, like this like we know they're both lying. Okay, they're both performing, they're both putting on a performance. Okay, Ben's performance is kind of like portrayed more innocently than Andy's is. You know, like he is just like charming, and like it's not like it doesn't hold the same weight that Andy's does throughout the film. And so when they fall out and Ben is like, oh, like the article, and like I was only used for the article, and da 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 da, and we have all of that. Mind you, you were using her. You both were using each other for professional gain, but we were made. You were looking at Andy and mad at her about the article. Mind you, you were using her to get a diamond account. So why was what you were doing more acceptable than what she was doing?
Yeah, I think that's where the movie asks the audience to do a little bit of work, is because they basically want to create this illusion that in trying to like pretend and like put one over on each other, they end up inadvertently developing real feelings, so that all of a sudden, when the hijinks are revealed, feelings get hurt. And so that might be where they lost you, is because
that's where they lost me.
This whole time we were led to believe that they were playing each other. And then, but I also think that's kind of why some people do love the film, is because they can see those micro moments of, ooh, are they really falling for each other? Like, da 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 da. But it is camp. The whole setup is camp.
Like I get like his feelings being hurt, whatever. But some introspection, like I'm like, and it feels so like a man to do that. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, not sorry to the men out there, but it feels so like a man to ignore the fact that you were doing the exact same harmful tactic. Mind you, what if the article, God forbid, what if the article wasn't happening, right? And like you were still using her for professional gain.
I think what Ben can tell himself in his mind is, I was pretending something positive and she was pretending something like he, in his mind, he could be like, oh, I'll try and make this woman fall in love with me, and then, oh, if I end up really hitting it off with her, I never have to tell her about the bet. Versus Andy's trying to actively drive him away. I do not agree with him. I agree with you. But I think that's kind of the like male psychology of like, she was like actively driving me away and lying to me and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well,
mind you, you're also
the whole point
lying.
of the film is that they're both doing it. And that's why I think, even though this film plays with a lot of gender norms, it is quite evenly played. The power is evenly placed with both of them, which I love.
Which
but
I
speaking
did like.
of the playing with the gender norms, I think that's why this film is so funny, and is still funny 20 years later, because the things that Kate Hudson is doing are playing with like the tropes of the clingy woman, the tropes of the bad girlfriend, and a lot of it falls into like the hyperfeminine and the hypermasculine. Like, oh my gosh, the scene that sends me. So normally my favorite scene is when they're in the movie theater and she turns around and she goes, my boyfriend's gonna come back there and pummel your ass. And just the way that she delivers that line sends me. But in this rewatch, the scene that got me the most was when she's trying to sabotage his poker night with his friends.
Oh my God.
And she sees a box of tissues and she goes over to him and puts the tissue in his face and goes, blow. And it got me so much because it plays with like this concept that men want to be mothered, but they don't want to be infantilized. And she's playing right into that. She's playing into like the men being like, well, I want you to take care of me, but not in front of my friends.
Like, I still want to be like a man in front of my friends, but like, I want to be taken care of.
Exactly. And that's why blow. So funny. What was your favorite one of her hijinks?
I always do the movie theater. That is forever my favorite one.
Yeah. Pummel your ass.
That is my favorite. You know, pummel your ass. But in theory, he liked her crazy ass. And I feel like that feeds into men actually like the crazy, and they just say that they don't. Because after the pummel,
oh my God, you're so
he gets punched, right? He's talking to his friends. He was like, yeah, it was kind of fun. They like the crazy. They just don't want to admit that they like the crazy.
Yeah, because there is like the emotional arc of the film really hinges on this weekend where he takes her home to his family to Staten Island. And because she's around other people and she like doesn't want this like pretense to leak into other people's lives because she's a respectful queen.
Yeah.
She's like more herself around his family and like she's more quote unquote like normal. And so I guess that's supposed to be like the anchor of him being like, okay, I really do love her, like her. But you're right. She spent 7 days being crazy. And then just because she spent 3 other ones being fine, you're suddenly like, oh, sure. But yeah, but I guess to pull it back, I think this film does what a lot of rom-coms do and why the demographic skews female, and it's not because of the love story and it's not because of the romance, but I think these films allow women to laugh at themselves while still like feeling some sense of control. And like props to Kate Hudson for not being afraid to look dumb and like silly, because I think in order to be a successful rom-com heroine, you have to be a vessel for women to relate to you and like relate to like the neuroses and the messiness and the reality of being a woman. And the way that she really plays up all these tropes, like yes, it's like crazy, but when you're watching it, you're like, oh, I like a man has called me crazy for such and such, or like I was clingy in this situation or that. And she allows you to laugh at yourself, but also laugh at like the confines that we're put in as women. So that's where I feel like the comedy of the film does a lot of work, because like you're so along for the ride with her, but you feel in control because you're under this pretense of like putting one over on Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, and like to that point, I think that is why I don't necessarily agree. I don't disagree, but I don't agree with like sentiments that it is anti-feminist and like that these exaggerations of female stereotypes in relationships and kind of like harping on like hyper femininity and things like that was doing more harm than good to the feminist movement, because I think that like it's very obvious that, as you were saying, like this was meant for us to laugh at ourselves. Like this was meant for us to like be like, you're actually not crazy. Like,
and you're not.
Like the point is like, this is what men actually think. And like, it's the exaggerated version. Like, you're not crazy. They're just dumb. Like, you're not crazy. They are just over analyzing and over exaggerating your actions. And it's like, it's fine. Or you could be like, okay, like I've gone a little bit overboard sometimes, and like, okay, whatever. And so it's like, it's not supposed to be like, oh, every woman is like this and like negatively portraying female aspects as anti-feminist. Like, no, like this was very clearly meant to be for shits and gigs, like very much to be for giggles and to allow ourselves, as you were saying, a moment to just like laugh at ourselves and like be fine, you know?
I totally agree. I think that, and also I have to say, like, in my mind, this is one of the creme de la cremes of the genre. I think there's plenty of rom-coms that you can tell have not been written with as much care or as much intelligence as I think this one and our other film that we're going to be talking about. So I totally can see like the tropes coming from like, oh, a woman's only goal in a rom-com is to fall in love or to get a man. And I think what makes a good rom-com heroine, and Andy Anderson is a good rom-com heroine, is that there's so much texture in this film to show you that she has a full life. Like, her friendships are continuous throughout the whole film, her ambitions beyond her current status in her career. And even when she's saying, you know, the trope of like, I want to write about real things and not just shoes, like, she's not putting down the magazine either. She's just saying, like, this is not for me. I don't want to write these things. But because there's a scene when they first start, quote unquote, dating, where Ben is kind of making fun of Composure magazine. And then Andy puts it right back. And she's like, well, all you do is sell beer and athletic equipment. So, like, you're also a representative of your gender. So,
exactly.
Yeah, again, it's this signaling to, I think, young girls and women of like, you can still be super successful. And if you don't want to lean into your hyperfemininity, you don't have to, but you can if you want to. I think the only quote unquote non-feminist part of this movie and a lot of movies of the era was just the body standards that are like entirely unattainable and like microaggressions about weight and like, you know, like they kind of play up like Kate Hudson of being this beautiful woman who like eats a burger and is like into sports and like, yeah.
Right.
So that's, I feel like, the only like harmful areas that this film ventures into. But I think you're right in that like all the poking fun at women is done through the lens of a woman herself.
Right. And something else that like grinds my gears
Tell me
about this film. And this is the problem that I have with so many rom-coms, and this is where they always get me, is the ending. It's the ending. And for me,
let's talk about it.
She's going to like go to this interview in Washington, DC, I'm presuming. And not Washington.
It's Washington State. She's going to write about the nature of Washington State.
She literally just says Washington. If I remember, I did watch this while hopped up on Dayquil, so forgive me. But she wants to write about politics, right? That's her whole shtick, is that she wants to write about politics and things that matter. She's going to DC to do this interview, to write about the things that she spent this whole movie being like, this is what I want to write about. She gets the opportunity. Matthew McConaughey comes up to her on a bike, on a motorcycle, and says, you can write anywhere. Pre-K pause. That's literally the point. She can't. That's literally the point, is that she's going somewhere where she can actually write about the things that she wants to write about. And you're sitting here, I think you're running away. No, babe. Methinks the entire point of this whole article, the whole film, is that she wanted to write politics. And now she's going to write politics. You know what you can do anywhere? Advertising.
And there it is. But I think it's all to just get them on that bridge. It's
of
all
course.
to just get on the bridge. But I think this, and we'll touch on this in our fast forward, because you bring up an excellent point of, can rom-coms take the logic of the modern day and the ambitions of the modern day, and like, can logic exist in rom-coms? Like, that's a big question. Or does it have to be entirely camp and wish fulfillment?
I think it can, but we'll
I think it can as well.
Because I think it can. I think it can because of our next film that we're going to be talking about.
No, exactly. And I think, like, I would also share your critique in that that's just like the line.
Exactly. She literally could have been that she's having an interview at, what you said, a New York Times.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they wanted the stakes of like
to be higher,
of like, she's leaving.
Exactly.
But yeah, he could have just said like,
It's giving
You don't
circa,
have to leave.
oh my gosh, what we were just talking about, and he has a glass blowing business and he traveled with her. Sweet Home
Sweet Home
Alabama.
Alabama.
Sweet Home. And there we go.
Home Alabama.
He moved for her. Logic.
Mm-hmm.
Logic. We were thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what you can do anywhere? Glass blowing. You know what else you can do anywhere? Advertising.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we brush up that bridge scene because also I'm thinking, so this film has a really nice, like, in a lot of rom-coms, there becomes this like narrative device of like a stand-in for love. Like in this film, it's them playing the game of bullshit. Like there's always like a kind of shared language, you know what I mean? Like a shared moment that in the end, when the guy or the girl is professing their love, they bring back this like shared memory, and that's supposed to like be a replacement for like their love. And so in this film, it's them playing the card game bullshit. And so when they're on the bridge and she's like, I know, when they're on the bridge and he's like, you can't, like, she's like, I have to leave, and he's like, bullshit, and it's like in a gorgeous McConaughey accent. And that's like the audience's signal of like, oh my God, true love, because of that narrative callback from before. But he doesn't even have to. She could have just said like, I have to leave, and he's like, bullshit. I'll move to Washington D.C. You're running away from me. You're not running away from Composure magazine. Exactly. Okay, so like, we'll submit that for the archives, like just a slight alteration.
Yeah.
But you're right. It does bring us to our next film that we want to talk about, where, dare I say, you can have logic and career ambition tied up in a beautiful bow. And I included this film. Dan and I were debating this because some might say this is not a traditional rom-com, but I actually think it did a lot for structure and unconventional structure of a rom-com. And also, like, I just can't have a 2000s nostalgia episode and not have this film. And what film is that, Danny?
Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde! Oh my God. I'm actually like a little nervous because I want to do this film justice. Because I absolutely adore it. I absolutely adore this film.
It is genuinely one of my favorite films of all time, which I feel like doesn't fit my aesthetic.
But I think it does.
But I think it also does, like 100%.
Because riddle me this: why did you have a Legally Blonde sticker on your laptop for the entirety of your collegiate career?
Right.
And there it is.
I did, in fact. Something else that I love about this, which we touched on in our very first episode, actually, which is like crazy to think, which was the filmmakers behind House Bunny. One of the filmmakers behind House Bunny was, in fact, my hashtag sorority sister. And that same filmmaker is the brains behind Legally Blonde, and part of Legally Blonde's sorority is based off of my sorority. So I just think that me and Elwoods are sorority sisters.
You and Elwoods are tight.
Locked in, some might say.
But yeah, this film changed my brain chemistry as a child. Like, this is incredible. And I think in continuing on to the 2000s nostalgia and the rom-com of it all, I think this film is structurally genius. Not only do you have the bait and switch of like, the man you think she's pursuing is not the man that she ends up with at the end. It's a little bit about, oop, and then she ends up with the gorgeous Nick Wilson. So endearing, so cute. But also something that I realized rewatching this film is that every 30 minutes or so, our protagonist Elle's goal shifts. So you're constantly reinvesting in her and her storyline because we're like moving the goalpost a bit. Like, first it's marry Warner, then it's go to Harvard so we can marry Warner. Then it's no, I actually want to be good at law school to get back at Warner. And then it's like, wait, I actually might like the law. And then it's like, oh my God, I'm going to come back and win this case to prove it to my sexist pig of a professor that I am good at law. And then in the end, it's like, oh, this is my life's ambition. Like, it's like the more we shift her want, the closer we get to her character's need, which is the ending of the film and the fulfillment of her ambition. But yeah, it's like literally like time. If you like timestamp the film, I'm willing to bet that every like 20 or 30 minutes, her goal shifts somehow, which is genius.
That's crazy. I literally never noticed that. And with the bait and switch of it all, like you're getting in and you're like, oh, like, and this is why I never considered it like a real rom-com, because I was like, the love was her and a man just happened to be with her in the end. Like, her finding of love was her self-definition and her self-actualization. And that was the most important outcome. Like, had she not ended up with her boyfriend in the end, like with who she ended up with in the end, it would still be a happy ending. You know what I mean?
But this is the thing, is like when I was doing research for this episode and I was looking at like, I was creeping on everybody's letterboxd list of like 2000 rom-coms or favorite rom-coms, and Legally Blonde is consistently on those lists. And I wonder if it's just because this film impacted so many young women, and so when they think of that era of 2000s rom-coms, they put this in. But I also think there's something to be said about, like you just said, like this story is romance, but she's like falling in love with a new version of herself. Like she's kind of meeting a new version of herself and falling in love with that. And and speaking about this, I'm reminded of, I think, one of the greatest shots of the film, which is so subtle, but it's when she helps Paulette get her dog back. And there's a close-up of Elle where you can just see in her eyes like a shift of, oh, I like this. Like I made this happen. I helped this person and I used my intellect to do it. Like I outsmarted this man to help my friend. And it's just you can literally see a spark in her eyes. And that might just be, a testament to the real romance of the film.
And again, like in comparison, like to the House Bunny, like that's, I feel like this is why I never considered Legally Blonde a rom-com, because I don't consider House Bunny a rom-com either, and I don't think that it is. But even though they all, like a lot of them end up with romantic partners, the center point of the film was the power of friendship and our main protagonist like discovering herself and like finding a new path in life, and then finding like the thing that like brings her the most joy and brings her like purpose and like what she loves to do for herself, and without like in both cases taking the man and the romantic interest out of it. Apart from Warner, because he plays a pivotal part, but taking the romantic ending out of it, like it still has that impact. Like, you know, like you can take the ending romance and it will still be,
the film's arcs will still be complete.
Exactly.
Because, and this makes me think about, see, like, you know, in How to Lose a Guy, we were talking about this, like, I'm gonna call it coded whimsy, where
Screaming.
It's like thank you. You can trademark that. Pause pod coded whimsy.
We'll put it on merch.
We'll put coded whimsy. Oh my God, coded whimsy hats, coded whimsy shirts, please. Nobody steal that. It's mine.
I can promise you, nobody's jumping at the bits to steal that from you, Kara.
Is coded whimsy not like a hot property? Okay. Anywho, coded whimsy in that these films present us with frivolity that actually has depth. And so like more so in this film than How to Lose a Guy, but I wonder if like when they were pitching Legally Blonde, on paper it was probably like, oh, this girl follows her boyfriend to law school and then figures out that she wants a law career and then ends up with the nice guy at the end. Like, that's probably like the pitch of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the genius of this film is what you're saying, is like it is almost masquerading as this rom-com when in actuality you could just say it's a comedy about a woman finding herself.
Exactly. It could be classified as a coming of age film.
100%. Oh, that just gave me chills. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. But yeah,
She has
and
brains.
I think she has brains. But yeah, but I want to go back to something that you said, which was the female friendships being the core of this film. And in my rewatch, the subplot that I paid the most attention to or found myself rediscovering was Vivian's storyline. Because I just, maybe because in my memories of the film, she's just kind of an afterthought because you're focused on Elle and the sorority sisters. And I'd say Paulette is probably like, if we were to categorize like the best friend character, like trope in this film, it's Paulette. But I just never before paid attention to all the work that I think it's Selma Blair. Her acting work is incredible because once we get past the greatest montage in cinema history when Elle is like kicking it into high gear to become a lawyer, you see the small moments of Vivian gaining respect for her. And I think Warner earns respect for her because Elle bests him. Like she like one-on-one bests him intellectually. But Vivian and Elle aren't pitted against each other like that much later in the film, but that's when Vivian earns respect for her by just observing her and watching her as a woman succeeding. Because at first, when I first watched this film, I thought that Vivian was like a slut-shaming like mean girl. Like she sees Callahan hit on Elle and she automatically assumes that Elle's sleeping her way to the top and that's that, which could be how you read the film. But when I watched it this time, I was like, I think Vivian was really hurt by seeing Callahan with Elle, not because she thinks Elle's slipping way to the top, but because she's like, feels betrayed as a woman. Like, and maybe that's my 28-year-old read on the film instead of my 12-year-old read on the film.
And I mean, granted, like, that could be closer to the truth because we are closer in age to where they would be than our 12-year-old versions. You know what I mean?
The gaggers were probably older than the characters.
The gag. Here's the gag. But like going into the female like friendship of it all, and like I love Elle and Vivian's dynamic so much because Elle comes into this, she's never really, well, from this standpoint, she's never really had to compete with women because in her sorority, it's viewed as very supportive. Like, it's very much giving women supporting women, you know? And it's giving girls no matter what. Like, you see a woman, you support a woman. And so Vivian is her first example in a long time of, like, I guess having to earn a woman's respect or having a woman not immediately support you because you're a woman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it throws her off guard. But then with Vivian, she's watching Elle and like, even when Vivian is being like a bitch, you know, Elle is still supporting her because in her mind, that's a woman and I ride for women. And that's what Elle is thinking. You know what I mean? Because that's what she is taught. And I think that that goes into what you were saying about as Elle really kicks it into gear and Vivian starts having this respect for her. I think it's twofold because she's seeing that even though like I was like a bitch to Elle, like she was still like in any capacity, like she would still ride for me if I needed it. You know what I mean? And yeah, that friendship dynamic is very interesting to watch, and it was really well done and well written.
And I think one of my favorite parts of this sort of Vivian arc is because the way that sort of the case is set up in this film where Elle gets the alibi, but she's not gonna tell it because she, you know, gave Brooke her word and that's sort of a sisterhood, like trust. And all the men in the room, this like sort of office scene, all the men in the room are like, are you dumb? Like, just give the alibi. Like, that's how we're going to win the case. And Vivian's like silent. She doesn't say anything. And then Warner is like, Elle, come on, baby. Like, just give the alibi. And she's like, well, I gave her my word. And Warner goes, who cares about your word? And there's a close up of Vivian in that scene, which is so genius because you see Vivian both like question Warner's morality and then kind of feel herself aligning with Elle. And it's just such a subtle, amazing way to say, like, just because the men are the loudest people in this room and they're telling you that what you're doing is stupid, like, if you feel it in your heart there's like something wrong, like, chances are somebody else feels that way too. They're just not saying it.
And that goes into the respect thing that you were saying. It's like she's looking at Ellen just like, damn, like every man in this room, most of who have like more power than her, is telling her to do something, and Elle is like standing 10 toes down, 10 toes down behind Brooke, and she's like, I don't care what y'all say. In fact, y'all can say it till his face is blue. I'm not giving the alibi because I gave my girl my word. So, and that was really it.
And it also ties into like one of my favorite like kind of female friendship aspects of the film is just this blind loyalty that the sorority sisters have for each other. And like it's Brooke and Elle with the alibi, but it's used for comedic relief in other situations where like when her two friends come to the court and they're like, vote for Elle, look at her first court case, like they don't, bless them, they have no idea what the fuck is going on, but they're gonna support their friend. Like even when Elle like wants to go to Harvard, they're like, what, really? But then it takes them 2 seconds to be like, okay, well, like what's an LSAT, we'll figure it out, let's do it together. And I think it's important that the montage of Elle like trying to get into Harvard, it's not just the two like core besties, it's the whole sorority helping her study, helping her do this, helping her do that.
Exactly. Like the power of female friendship. And that's why I want to be like, Elle and I are sorority sisters, and like because I know that my sisters would ride for me in the same sense.
But then the question is, why do people put it on rom-com lists?
Exactly. And that is the riddle.
That is the riddle. And again, I think it has to do with this question that Austin posed of nostalgia. And I think just the term rom-com for a lot of people equates to comfort. Like just the genre itself is this safe space. So if there's a film like Legally Blonde that like has a romance B plot, but like is more, about this coming of age, but it fits into that cozy, nostalgic, safe space, we're going to include it because we want to claim it. We want to claim it as like part of that genre, maybe.
And I don't think that it has a like clean genre to go into.
No.
Like, so I think it's easier to classify it as a rom-com because it has the tropes and it has like the building blocks, and you can like just classify it as a rom-com. But I do think that it's just really hard to put this into a genre. And I don't think that people want to call it a coming of age because they're in college, Coming of age at that time was like at max a senior in high school,
Which,
not
good
post-grad.
Lord, if I was cast in stone at the age of 18, Lord help me.
Exactly.
But this is bringing up another thing that I think is interesting in the classification of these films, which is a term that I think women have reclaimed, but this film is also on a lot of lists labeled chick flicks, which I think is a very interesting term because a chick flick, I think, originally was like derogatorily used by men to be like, oh, that's a girl's film. That's a film for chicks. And I think women have reclaimed that to be like, these are the films of girlhood. These are like chick flicks. These are like almost, again, coded whimsy of, okay, if the men don't want to watch these films, then this is a space for us. And so maybe Legally Blonde is more of a chick flick than a rom-com.
I agree.
Word.
I agree.
But yeah, I just, there's so much in this film. And watching it again, I was just struck by the genius that is Reese Witherspoon's comedy in this film.
Mm.
And she's said that she's really inspired by Goldie Hawn and a lot of female comedians going into it. Because even like watching it more closely, because let's be honest, I watch this at least once in a calendar year, every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this time I was really struck by even like entering a scene, there's a way that she holds her eyes, there's a way that she holds her mouth that's just Elle Woods. That's just like open,
Mhm.
expected, optimistic, a bit of teetering on a caricature, but like so honest and endearing that like it balances it out. It both makes you laugh, but also makes you be like, oh my God, I want to be her best friend.
Mhm.
It's just so
Mhm.
genius.
I wrap this up by saying once again, Elle Woods is my sorority sister, and I stand by that, and I love her.
But it's also like me as a person who was never in a sorority. I was I'd like to say the sorority plus one of my generation. I came for the hummus and pita. I stayed for the gabs. But I think this film, like the sorority in it, yes, it's a real sorority and it's based off of a real sorority, Danny's sorority. But that sororal like structure is just there to kind of say like sisterhood. Like
Yeah.
women women
Women!
women I think form quote unquote sororities all the time, like friend groups
Mhm.
or like clubs or just any like group of women gathering. It's like it's the coven, it's the sorority, it's this shorthand structure to put into words like that, those relationships between that group of women. So in a way, like, yeah, we all feel like our sorority sister or like, you know, these girl sorority sisters because we recognize the language. We recognize
Yeah.
like the interactions that they are
Mhm.
having. So it's so good. But yeah, I think the reason we derive so much nostalgia from this is because Elle Woods was like our hero. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, we have referenced it a couple of times because I think the conversation is veering this way anyway. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode is to speak about nostalgia, but also speak about Austin's question of, is this genre dead? Because we hold these nostalgic movies to such a high esteem, then like what is the future of the rom-com? So shall we fast forward to discuss what we think that is? Okay, so I have a few thoughts on this, but I think I want to start with yours because you are not as invested in the genre,
I'm
but
not.
you are, I think, perceptive of what works and what doesn't. So, Danny, do you think there's a future for rom-coms in the current film industry?
I do. I
Mm-hmm.
do. And we teased it a little bit with Materialists. And, you know, obviously I don't think that was like should be classified as a rom-com. Was it funny at times? Yes, absolutely. Was it romance? Absolutely it was. Was it a rom-com? I think not. I think it's not. But I do think that there is room still yet for the rom-com genre. And I just dare someone to be brave enough to make it realistic, you know? And that again, that was like my issue. And that's why I kind of liked Materialists in a sense, is that like it felt very real.
Mm-hmm.
And they were poking, not poking fun at, but they were commenting on the absolute like craziness and materialism and like almost consumerism of current dating. And I think if we went on in a How to Lose a Guy sense and like really played into that and really poked fun at that and like did it tastefully the way that How to Lose a Guy did, um,
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be done. I think it just takes the right writing team, and I think the people are desperate, because you saw with Anything But You,
Anyone But
Glenn,
You.
thank you. Anyone But You, I didn't watch it, but people were like saying, oh, rom-coms are back and da 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 da. And then with Materials, they're like, oh, rom-coms were back. The people are craving, the people are desperate for rom-coms, but I do think that people are viewing rom-coms in that same nostalgic feeling. And I think once people hop on the train of rom-coms moving into the modern century
Mm-hmm.
and moving into that, then we can start getting some really good rom-coms out. But I don't
I
think the people
agree.
are ready.
I agree, and I think I have some tangential thoughts about everything you just said, so I'll just jump in, go on this journey with me. But I think I agree. I think the downfall of us as an audience is saying that rom-coms are back, because I believe that the future of the genre lies in innovation, and that has happened for our entire film history of a rom-com. Like the 90s and the 2000s, which I think are like in our memory like the pinnacle of the genre. In 1989, like when Harry Met Sally changed the genre of the rom-com, and then we had all the 90s rom-coms. And then again in the 2000s, like the aesthetic and the structure and the style and tone changed. And then we got a whole new like flurry of rom-coms. And so I think if we accept that the genre, because it's a genre about how people relate to each other more so than any other genre in film, like that's bound to keep changing. And so if we continue to have these like referential rom-coms where they're referencing old rom-coms and they're like doing these nods and homages, like to me that kills the movie, because by referencing another rom-com you break this spell of specificity and romance, and by infusing it with comparison we're immediately like, oh well, this is not Notting Hill, therefore it's not as good as Notting Hill, because you just reminded me that Notting Hill is a movie. And like, you know, and so I think this perceived isolation of these two people connecting is like what the genre really is fueled on. Serendipity exists in a bubble, in my opinion. So we can't keep referencing the oldies of the genre. We can be inspired by it. I think there's a huge difference between being inspired by and referencing. I think the one rom-com, and I put it in my Valentine's Day recommendations on socials, that I think does it so well is Rye Lane. Yeah. Our minds.
Because literally I was like, I'm literally playing with my wax. I was literally
her
like,
Baby Bell cheese wax. You guys need to know what she's talking about. She's literally pinching a piece of Baby Bell cheese wax.
Support Baby Bell cheese wax.
Watch on YouTube if you want to see. Wait, does it have a name? Let's name it right now. L.
Like Baby Bell L.
Baby Bell L. Okay,
Bell,
sorry.
Baby Bell
the
L.
People need to know how you're dealing with your anxiety.
I'm screaming. No, I was literally thinking, because when you said like, oh, people keep saying like rom-coms are back, rom-coms never left. Rom-coms never left. Rom-coms quite literally never left. And that's how I know you guys aren't real rom-commers, because if you really wanted rom-com,
she called you fake.
That's how I know y'all aren't real rom-commers. Y'all aren't writing for rom-coms the way y'all claim y'all are writing for rom-coms. And I don't even rock for rom-coms like that. And I know
she doesn't even ride.
I don't ride at all. I don't even tricycle.
She doesn't even go here.
I don't even go here. And you like, there's so many, like, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, you're not looking in the right places. And is it racism? I don't know. But there has been several Black rom-coms that have come out that recently that are fantastic, that are so good, you know? How I get my fix during the holiday time, Hallmark. I'm not saying those are good, but you'll get your fix. But All I'm saying is, I don't think y'all are real rom-commers. Everybody's like, oh, rom-coms are back, rom-coms are back. They never left, babes. And if y'all actually put in the work to find the rom-coms that have been coming out and showing up, then producers and like studios would be like, oh, people really, really rock with rom-coms, and would give voices to writers who want to write unique and like new and innovative
Mm-hmm.
rom-coms.
Yeah, because you know what else I think is a great rom-com? Oh Hi.
And y'all wasn't rocking for Oh Hi. And y'all wasn't rocking for Oh Hi. And here's the thing. And that's what I'm saying. Y'all wasn't rocking with Oh Hi. Y'all wasn't rocking with Oh Hi because she was a little bit crazy. Because she was a little bit crazy. Y'all wasn't, because she dabbled in witchcraft a little bit and she tied a man to the bed. Y'all aren't rocking with Oh Hi. No. That's how I know y'all are not real rom-commers. Y'all are not real rom-commers. And that's coming from a rom-com. And honestly, I could call myself a rom-commer. I could call myself a rom-commer because I'm writing for the rom-coms. I'm writing for the rom-coms because I want rom-coms to be better. I want rom-coms to be better. And that's why I criticize rom-coms as such, because I'm putting in the work. I'm putting in the hours watching these rom-coms.
This is the most impassioned I have ever heard Danny be. I'm sweating about rom-coms. Oh my god, this is a treat. This is a delight. Okay, but you speak the truth.
Thank you. Sorry,
people to what?
Sorry, another unconventional rom-com. Unconventional, and this is what I'm telling you. Look in different genres too. An unconventional rom-com together. That was funny as hell. That was funny as hell, and it was romantic. Rom-com with a little bit of horror. Oh, y'all don't want to dabble in a rom-com horror? Okay, y'all are not real rom-commers. Y'all are not real rom-commers. And that's what I'll put down my mic now. Go ahead, Kara. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, that was the best thing I've ever witnessed.
Y'all are not real rom-commers. Y'all are not real rom-commers. I'll fight you on that. Sorry. Sorry.
My cheeks are red. Okay, so I agree. I think the issue is, and this is the funny thing about nostalgia, is because it fuels us and it can fuel so much inspiration, but nostalgia is steeped in specificity and in the past, and thus it can't be recreated. It can only be inspiration. And I think it's really easy to be disillusioned with the genre because there is a lot of slop, okay? Like there is. And I think the criticisms of the genre is it's formulaic and like the characters aren't fully developed, and I think people get disappointed and I get disappointed. Like, not sorry, much love, but I don't think anyone but you was a successful rom-com, and I think that fueled the sorry, love you, Glenn. That fueled the kisses. That fueled the disappointment of, I think, blockbuster mass audiences of the genre, because Anyone But You was referential and it was not fully developed on its own. It was like, this is the formula that people like, and these are the setups that people like, and that's true. But what we really love about rom-coms is how they make us feel, and we can't feel when we're not watching Kate Hudson name Matthew McConaughey's penis and make a fool of herself and be relatable to us, and watching Elle Woods like come into herself. Like, we need that substance, and so I think it's not just the structure. And I think rom-coms a lot of time get like whittled down to their structure because they are formulaic. They are. But like when you use the formula to your advantage. So yeah, and Rye Lane, some could argue that it makes a reference because Hugh Grant has a cameo in it, but they don't try and recreate Notting Hill. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this filmmaker loves rom-coms, but they're not trying to recreate the rom-com. And that story is like so unique in of itself. And it brings up this question of, I'll link it down below, but there's a great New York Times article. It's actually from 2019, but like, go into the archives. And it's this this writer talking about like, do we want rom-coms to speak to our current moment? And like, mind you, let's put this in like the context of 2019, like Me Too movement. Like, there was a lot of cultural reckoning happening, especially in the romance space, as there should be. But they were asking this question like, do we want modern rom-coms? Do we want that reality check? Or do we just want the comfort of this wish fulfillment? And I think we can have both. And I think that's why audiences weren't ready for Materialists. And I don't think it's the movie's fault. And we said this in our episode. It was the marketing. Because I think you can look at a lot of Celine Song's interviews and see that she loves rom-coms and she was inspired by them and she tried to pick the best pieces of them. But she's not like labeling this film as like the traditional rom-com. And even if she was, maybe she's just trying to push the genre and maybe people aren't ready for it and maybe people don't want it. And, you know, like it's difficult because that film has like a storyline that's quite tough and it's not like sunshine and roses like in the rom-com sense, but it does comment on modern dating and modern romance. And so I guess like the answer to all this is like, if we want the genre to continue, we just have to stretch like what we think a rom-com can be, and it can provide us comfort and can provide us whimsy and provide us all these things in a slightly different package because we already have all the other ones. Like we like and I will forever rewatch 90s rom-coms and I'll forever rewatch 2000 rom-coms, and they are a time capsule of like how men and women relating to each other, how people were talking about romance in those times. And I think you can have a healthy balance of cynicism and whimsy in a rom-com in our modern day, and you don't have to ignore things like that.
Yeah, and if we don't capture it, then we're not gonna have that time capsule in 20 years, you know?
Exactly. Because you even look at the rom-coms of like 70s and 80s, like they were cynical as hell. Like, you
Right.
know, they weren't like the fluffy fun ones, but because again, the nostalgia is not just for the genre, it's for who we were watching it. I think
Right.
that's where a lot of the criticism comes in, and people want to be uplifted and entertained and all of that. But I think the key is innovation, and that's that.
Innovation that excites.
Yeah. Keep making rom-coms. I love them. Please.
Keep making rom-coms, and I will judge them.
Yeah, as you should, though. Both of these things can be true. As a
once.
lover of the genre, do I have to turn my brain off sometimes and be like, make it make sense? Of course. But the camp and the frivolity of it is just it's just so fun. And I can critique it and love it at the same time.
Exactly.
And that's on critical thinking. Ooh.
Oh! Hello.
Anyway, to wrap our nostalgia conversation up, I think nostalgia is a gorgeous thing. And I think it's necessary because I think some people can say like, oh, nostalgia is harmful. Like you're judging all these current films on past films and you're living in the past. But I think nostalgia is a healthy part of connecting to your inner child and yourself. And isn't like, what's the saying of like nostalgia translates into some sort of like Latin or Greek word for wound?
It's like scratching an ant bite, you know?
Yes.
And it's like, you know that you shouldn't. You know that you shouldn't, and like it's gonna hurt. But like while you're itching it, it like feels great.
Feels so good.
It feels so good.
And I think, and why do you think like there's such this trend of like 2026 is the analog year and we're gonna like have a 90s summer? Like we want to reconnect with the things that gave us joy when we were younger, and the pain only comes from knowing that they don't exist anymore, but that doesn't mean that you like it's important.
Exactly.
And as we've seen in Rye Lane, but also in other mediums, like our Disney Channel episode where Ryan Coogler, like part of Sinners, was inspired by Luck of the Irish, like nostalgia fuels inspiration. The key ingredient is just innovation. Whoa, was that a rhyme?
Oh my God, she's a rapper, y'all. I'm screaming.
So live in the nostalgia, watch your favorite rom-coms, reconnect with your inner child, and let that help you judge the future films of the genre and what you want them to be. I love love. Okay. Danny can't relate. Oh my gosh, wait, this is a tangent, but Blue Moon just recently came on Netflix, so I was watching it, and this line stood out to me where Ethan Hawke's character he's a writer, and he's talking about his sexuality and kind of like his fluidity and like being in love with everyone. And he has this line where he goes, I get drunk on beauty, no matter if that beauty comes from a man or a woman or whoever. And I'm like, I just get drunk on beauty. And that's how I feel about like romance films and rom-coms. I'm like, I just love to drink it in. I get drunk on beauty.
Wow.
Yeah, so let that if you go on a date with a man and he doesn't say that he's getting drunk on your beauty, move on.
Dump them.
Don't
Dump them.
Okay. Shall we move on to our pauses of the week?
My favorite part, yeah. Carabeth. What gave you pause this week, babe?
What gave me pause this week? Well, what gave me pause this week was science. Okay. Your favorite subject.
Love science. If you guys didn't know, I used to be a woman in STEM. Mm-hmm.
Bunsen burner
on.
But yeah, so I was scrolling through Fable, which if you girls are still on Goodreads, get your ass to Fable. It's cuter there, okay? And I was scrolling through and this gal had posted about this thing called embodied cognition. And I think I had heard of this like theoretically, but I'd never heard it described in this way before. Because you know how everybody's like, oh, reading gives you empathy. Reading like helps empathy. But embodied cognition gives scientific reason to why that is. So researchers scanned readers' brains while they read and identified the activity patterns across different regions of the brain. And the left temporal cortex is what activates when you read fiction, but it's also what activates when you think about yourself and the self. So when you're reading about somebody running or jumping, like your motor cortex is activated. Or when you read about a specific texture or sensory thing, like your sensory cortex lights up. And when you read about cinnamon, your olfactory like cortex of your nose lights up. And so embodied cognition means that your brain does more than just understand the words. You feel the words, scientifically feel the words.
That's crazy.
So when you're reading, your brain can't really distinguish what the character is going through versus what you are going through because it's activating those parts of your brain. So reading is living stories, y'all. Embodied cognition.
That is insanity.
Isn't that kooky crazy? I was like, wow, I love when I learn something that puts like meaning to something that I kind of thought I knew.
Yeah.
But it gives it a word. Embodied cognition.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Give me pause.
Oh my god.
And that's why empathy is formed, because you're actually putting yourself
in their shoes. I love science. I love science.
Yeah, so Danny, what gave you pause this week?
Let me tell you, I have 2 pauses.
Oh, double feature.
Double feature. My first is that I came in contact weirdly with an old high school friend this week and literally yesterday. And I think that's so cool. And like, to age myself, like it's been like 10 years since we graduated high school, which is like,
yikes,
like actually wild. But I just thought that that was so sweet, and like just catching up with like an old friend like that just like brings my heart joy, and like seeing that he was doing well and like all of that, and like we're like all adults and like, you know, hanging out as adults, and like the last time we saw each other we were like babies, like we were kids.
baby
And just,
children.
I know, baby children, and just seeing how much we've like all grown. And I was like, that's really sweet and that's really cute. And it was just like really fun getting to hang out with him for a little bit. So that was a cutie pie time. And then the second happened just before I came onto this recording, and I'm setting up my tripod. I'm setting up, right? I hear a commotion outside of my window. Okay.
Oh no.
I look outside. 2 things are happening simultaneously. Okay. 1, there's 2 guys fighting. Bop, 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 fighting. One gets in his car, drives away. Okay. Next, I think an accident happened, or maybe like the car broke down. This person gets out of their car, is yelling at the other person in like the second vehicle, gets into that vehicle, drives away, leaves the car.
Leaves his car there?
Leaves the car there. There's a car just sitting outside this
Hmm.
entire time.
Wait, he got into no the second vehicle. He got into the car with the man who fought him. No, I
No.
didn't hear that correctly. Okay.
I don't know if they hit each other or like if the first car broke down, but then they were yelling at each other through the window. But then I can't tell if it was a girl or a boy, but that person from the car that was broken down got into that car, drove, left the car. No one's come and collected the car yet.
Just in the middle of the intersection?
It's kind of like off to the side.
I'm gonna get your car.
Yeah. And that also gave me pause today.
I hope that car's okay. Abandoned. Left for dead. On the side of the road.
So, lots happened in the past like 24 hours for me here.
Wow, so much.
Anyways.
Anywho's, well, thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Pause Pod. Like we said at the top, if you want a more of like a film history series of us deep diving into different eras of a genre, be it rom-coms, horror, or a genre that you suggest, let us know. We love thinking of new series and deep dives for the pod that maybe is a bit out of our usual structure. And if they want to send us their ideas for said series, where can they go, Danny?
You guys can contact us or follow us on socials at Pause Pod Girls on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you check the link in any of those bios, there is a contact us form where you can contact us.
Love that. And we do post bonus content on socials. So if you are not following us on socials, you really don't get the full picture. That's where we have a lot of our film recs, a lot of what we're currently watching. So if you want to party with us over there, please give us a follow. And it helps us grow the podcast. So we appreciate it. And yeah, give us a 5-star review, tell your friends, grow the darling community.
And we are so glad that you are here with us, and we cannot wait to yap with you again so soon. Bye.